Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Amber Unfiltered. Tonight I'm going to give you my review of the season finale of Yellowstone, season 5, episode 14. But before I do that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you want to cash at me at AmberUnfilteredShow, that'd be greatly appreciated. I'm so sorry for the late upload. I had some other stuff to take care of and I didn't anticipate it taking me this long, but I'm recording it tonight with the intention of uploading it. So I appreciate you having patience with me. Also, I was going to go live and do this to kind of commemorate the season finale or the series finale, but then I looked last night, something randomly told me, I looked at like 11 or 12 o'clock last night, it was like you should look at the guidelines or something, and I'm glad I did, because apparently I didn't meet those or that criteria. Like I think you have to go 90 days, like your channel has to be online for 90 days, and you can't be in any violation per like the live streaming YouTube like standards or whatever. So I was like, damn, I really wanted to do it and I was so excited to do it. But also I was kind of low-key nervous and I was kind of low-key happy at the same time, even though I really did want to do it for you guys. But anyway, I'm here now. This will be a late post, but I'm so glad that you guys are tuning in. I hope that you guys have had a good day today. Mine was actually super productive. I applied for jobs. I did some writing. I put some of my work in contests, like entered them up for competitions for cash prizes and publication. Like I've been ripping and running today, even though I haven't like physically left my house. I've just been on the grind today, but I'm so happy. Also filled out a financial aid form to see if I can get some loans or anything like that, or scholarships when I go get my bachelor's. So I've just been locked in today. I also journaled and I just felt like I kind of recalibrated or reset myself. So I'm feeling pretty good, feeling like I got a lot accomplished today. So anyway, I'm gonna give you my review. First and foremost, I wanna say that I did not enjoy the season finale. I'm not trying to shit on the creators or any of the actors or directors. I know that they're doing what, working with what they're given. I feel like this season finale fell really flat. It fell really short for me. I'm a person who hates endings of shows. My husband will tell you, like, he roasts me all the time about this because I'm like, I hate when a show builds up so much tension, drama, and just like draws you in only to like give you such a cheap or the short end of the stick, like a cheap ending or like a shortcut or the easy way. And I felt like that this was how Yellowstone season finale ended. It's very hard to please me as a viewer because I feel like I'll get so invested, but that ending for some reason always falls short. And a lot of the times it doesn't make sense. It was very interesting. Like I was talking with my mother-in-law and my husband yesterday we were talking about different endings, and we were like, well, what about this storyline? What about this? And I was like, oh yeah, I fucking forgot about that, because I feel like even though Yellowstone is a great show, I feel like there's stories that they introduce to us or characters that they introduce or plots or subplots, and then they magically disappear or vanish. And it's like, well, what happened with that? That would have been a great way to tie this up. Like, for instance, I know this wasn't really brought up in the season finale, but remember when Jamie went to his child's mother's house and she was like coaching him on what to do and say? We all thought that she was like working in cahoots with somebody, like maybe that covert government organization that helped Sarah take out John Dutton, but no, it never came to pass. I was like, what happened with that? Like that would have been interesting to tie in, like maybe she has something to do with Jamie getting killed versus Beth, being the one to kill him. I also thought the kill between Beth and Jamie was so fucking weak. But anyway, let me get my little tablet here with my notes and I'll go through it in chronological order as best as I can, and then I'll kind of insert my feedback as usual. So anyway, the episode opens with Mo and a bunch of indigenous people on horseback. They're in the dark. It's like beautifully shot. I actually was tweeting about this. It was a beautiful scene, very powerful to me. Just under the moonlight, and just like the framing of the shot, I think was really gorgeous. Also, some of them had like red handprints, on their faces, kind of like talking about indigenous who lost their lives unfairly to their oppressors or other ways or events. So they're basically going to the pipeline and messing with it to kind of defeat or prevent or stop the people that were trying to commercialize the land. Basically, they like use the horses to like drag the like huge ass heavy like cement, like circular pipes. I don't know what they're called, forgive me, I'm not in that world, but you know what I mean. So they had the horses help them move them, and then some of the men get off their horses and like actually move them by hand. And Mo has like this gorgeous like white war paint on his face. Like Mo is actually one of my favorite characters. I don't want to say he's one of my favorite characters. I feel like he was a character that was worthy of his story being more developed. Him just being a sidekick, I was like, I would have loved to see more depth, but that's just me. I feel like he's a pretty good actor, and I would watch a show like if he was like the lead or something in it, because he kind of has this presence to him that makes you want to like stay, like your eyes want to stay on him when he's on the screen. I don't know how to explain it, just his energy, I guess. So then they dump the pipes in the water, and then there's one pipe that's rolled into the water, and it's kind of like stuck at the top, and it's like kind of like sinking. And I was like, oh, is this symbolism? And I was like, it kind of keyed to that or alluded to that, but then it didn't really, I feel like it didn't really go back to it or follow up on that, because I think the show does have really great symbolism. So then the next scene shows all the cowboys. They're with Travis. It's like the Yellowstone Ranch cowboys and Travis's crew. They're kind of just in the cowboys' quarters in Yellowstone, and they're just kind of hanging out. And Travis starts roasting one of the cowboys about becoming an influencer. And he's like, are you going to post from a truck stop to get free nachos? And I thought that was pretty funny. But it seemed like everybody was laughing like extra hard, and it seemed so fake because they were working with the creator. Excuse me, I got a piece of freaking hair on my mouth. But it's like Taylor Sheridan, he's like the co-creator. He also directs some of the episodes, he writes them, he's heavily involved. And it kind of felt like a little pretentious to include himself in the series finale. I low-key wonder if he was trying to take the place of Kevin Costner in some way. This part of the season severely suffered without Kevin Costner. It was such a different show. I think it was not as strong as it normally was, because he is like the common thread of the show. The actress who plays Beth, again, she's fire. Like, I think she's a close second because of just how strong her acting is and how well she plays this character. But it definitely was missing his essence and that grit, that toughness, that fatherly love and like fatherly duty, but like also that, I don't know, it was just missing his energy, his charisma. Kevin Costner has something very special, and he's, again, been in the game for a very long time. So I don't know, it was just lacking so severely for me. But I still try to, you know, be a supportive viewer and like, you know, keep watching the show and, you know, trying to stay invested, I guess I would say. So I didn't really like that Taylor Sheridan was in last week's episode or this week. That his storyline didn't really add anything to it. It was just giving pretentious, like, oh, I can get hot chicks and like I'm the boom shit shebang. And I was like, I'm not really feeling that. If you're gonna incorporate the creator of the show in the show, make them like an integral part of the story and make them add value to it, not really detract or distract from it, if that makes sense. So anyway, Travis tells Jimmy, he's like, hey, let's go. It's time to leave. Let's go head out. And he tells Rip as he's heading out, he's like, you know, if you need anything, give me a holler. So then Teeter follows Travis outside, which I figured she was going to go ask him for a job. This is what she does. And, you know, she asks him for a job, and he's like, what's wrong with the Yellowstone ranch? And she's like, it has too many memories, you know, because she just lost Colby. She has no purpose to stay there. He was her reason for, I don't want to say her reason for living, but definitely gave her something to look forward to outside of, you know, the cowgirl lifestyle. So Travis is like, you know, ask Jimmy how it is working for me. And then, you know, if you still want to move forward, just let me know. So she goes to ask Jimmy, and Jimmy's basically like, it's like the equivalent of being in hell or anything lower than hell. So then Teeter goes back up to Travis's truck, and she's like, you know, I still want to work for you. And she's like, I'll be back up in Texas in a week. And so I'm weak because Jimmy's in the front seat, in the passenger seat, and Travis leans across Jimmy to give her some cash, and he's like, get an audiobook so you can learn some damn English, because you know she talk like this. Like her accent is so thick. I think the actress who plays her does a really great job. It'd be interesting to see a spinoff with her, or like a prequel or something, like leading up to her time before she came to the Yellowstone. I mean, there's so many characters that they have to work with in this universe, that not just the popular ones. I think even like a Ryan or somebody like that, the cowboy that was best friends with Kobe, would be very interesting to watch. I feel like, was he the uncle on Teen Wolf? Remember Teen Wolf with like Scott Posey, Dylan O'Brien, Crystal Reed? That show was so hard. I never finished it, but me and my friends loved that show. Actually, me and my brother and our best friend Wanya, we would like watch it. We'd all be like in different like houses or whatever, but we'd like call each other on the commercial break because we were so psyched about how good the show was. But I feel like he was a wolf in the show, the guy that plays Ryan. I don't know the actor's name, but let me know. I want to say his first name was Ian. I might be wrong. He just looks so familiar to me. I'm like, that's the only, I know he's been in other stuff, but it's jogging my memory for some reason every time I see him. So then Rip, Beth, and Carter go back into the main house, and she tells Carter to go take a shower because he smells like a damn hyena. And I was weak. I was like, damn, Carter can't catch no breaks. So then Beth shows Rip a new property on her laptop. It has like house, land, acres, all that type of stuff. And he's like, you know, can I raise yearlings? And he starts asking her questions. And then she follows like all his questions up with, you know, she's like, hey, could you make this work? I know it's not the Yellowstone, but is it comparable, basically? And he's like, yes. And then she's like, good, well, good, because I bought it this morning. And I was like, my husband would not go for that. I was like, that's such a huge decision to make. But I was like, only Beth would be able to get away with something like that. It was funny too, because I had tweeted, I was like, my husband would snatch me by my baby hairs if I bought an entire ranch / house without talking to him. And somebody was like, well, your husband shouldn't be putting his hands on you. And I was like, bitch, he's not. Like, it's a joke, it's an expression, like, it's not that deep. I was like, I'm not gonna answer it because I'm not getting into it with somebody I don't know on the internet. Like, again, I'm not trying to be nasty to that person, but I was just like, I was saying like bitch, like, because I always say bitch, like it's like a term of endearment for me. But anyway, I guess that person might have been worried about me, but I was like, bro, I'm good. Like, I'm in like the most happy marriage, like calm down, like it's not that deep. So then he's like, you know, Beth, who's gonna run the Yellowstone? And she's like, I'll explain everything tomorrow. Oh wait, so maybe she did know what Jamie was gonna do. I was tweeting about this too. I was like, not Jamie making backdoor deals, but anyway, ignore me. I'm sorry, I'm over here going on little side tangents. So the next scene, we see Beth strolling into the kitchen with her typical cigarette already lit, and she makes herself a cup of coffee, and then she goes and sits outside. She receives a phone call and she goes outside to sit on the porch in a rocking chair. Rip joins her. He's got a cup of coffee and he's like, oh shit, I see that she's stressed. So the funeral home had called and said John's body is available for release. So Rip is like, is there anything I can help you, with for the ceremony? I'm sorry, I feel like I can't talk. I'm like stumbling over my words. Let me slow down a little bit. I apologize. So she's like, no, just you, the Cowboys, and Casey, and, like Monica and Tate, like, that's it. She's like, hey, can you dig a hole beside, my mom's grave, to put them side by side? And then I thought this was actually really sweet. Beth has had such character development. She's become so much softer and sweeter. And I feel like she's realizing the more important things in life really is family. Not that she didn't know that before, but I think because she has such tension with Jamie, like, I think with the loss of her dad, she has become more rounded out, but in a softer way, even though that loss will always be with her, if that makes sense. So then Beth calls Linnell, which was the lady that her dad used to deal with. They were like in a very casual arrangement, but while he was still alive, they were very tight or whatever. So she invites her, and I thought that was actually very sweet of her. Because I feel like she knows that Linnell would have wanted to say goodbye, because Linnell also lost her husband. John lost his wife, so they kind of bonded over that loss, but also their political connections and them rubbing elbows in the same circles kind of help, them get together. So then the Cowboys are getting cleaned up for the day. Rip comes in and he asks them, do you guys know where you're headed? Because basically there is no Yellowstone. Ryan is like, I'm just going to wander for a bit. And again, the one-liners in the show are incredible. Sometimes the writing in terms of like certain lines, I'm like crisp. So Rip, it says, he's like, wandering doesn't pay so good. And I was like, but facts. But sometimes I feel like it could, like if the right opportunity fell into your lap. So then he gives Ryan an envelope of cash, and then he gives all of the other Cowboys envelopes filled with cash as well. He's like, hey, come with me real quick. And then they start digging holes for John's grave, or a hole for John's grave, excuse me. So then I forget his name. I don't know if it's Rainwater or Stillwater. I want to say it's Rainwater, but I could be wrong. Actually, let me look real quick so I don't say this wrong the entire time. Hold on one second. I'm going to look on my tablet here. Hold on one second. Chief. Is it Rainwater? Because I've been saying this man's name wrong. Okay, it is Rainwater. Okay, I was like, is it Rainwater, Stillwater? I feel like his last name had something to do with water in Twilight as well. So anyway, Mo and Rainwater head to Casey's house. And then, what was I going to say? Mo is driving and Rainwater's in the back seat. And Mo is like, hey, do you think what we did with the pipes and the water will stop the like investors or real estate developers from doing what they're doing? And he's like, no, but it'll make a lot of noise and then we can kind of use that to our advantage. And I was like, okay, fair point. Also, they didn't really do anything with that either. Like they showed it and then it just went, okay, actually they did. Let me back up. They did. Excuse me. It didn't come out the way that I thought it would. So Monica goes to the front porch. She's greeting Rainwater and Mo, and Rainwater is like, your husband has us curious. And she's like, me too. And he's like, oh, not even the wife knows. And she's like, no, not even the wife knows. And that's something that I don't like about Casey's character, is how like secretive he is. But I think he feels like my plan will go to shit if I let everybody in on it. But it's like, she's your wife, like she's your better half. Like you should be able to trust her. They've been together, what, 15, 20 years or something like that, since they were kids, like teenagers. So anyway, Casey starts asking Rainwater questions, and he's like, can you buy the land? And he's like, I basically can't afford it because corporations have that type of money. Like an individual entity won't have that type of financial gain or wealth. So Casey offers the land to him for $1.25 per acre, kind of keeping it back to how it was in the olden days. which I thought was really interesting. And he's like, there's a couple of conditions. He's like, you can't sell the Yellowstone. And he's like, we get to keep the East Camp, which is where he lives. I never heard it called that. So when he said that, I was like, what the F is the East Camp? I didn't remember him saying that. He probably did say it. Again, something I want to add to, the gentleman who plays Casey, he seems like a nice guy, Luke Grimes, but sometimes when he's reading his lines, they're not clear to me as some of the other actors. Like Beth, I never have to second guess what she said, what she means. I don't really have to rewind or pause or go back. With him, sometimes his lines get mumbled, or I don't want to say mumbled, they get jumbled or they get lost in translation for me. Like, remember when they were talking about, who was another one? I feel like sometimes Jamie was too. And even him, when they were talking about like the lease of the land and stuff like that, like the verbiage and just the delivery, I think was not translatable to me as a viewer. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments. Nicely, of course. So then right then and there, Rainwater takes him up on his offer and they make a blood oath, which I thought was very interesting, but very old school because, there's no physical documentation right then and there. You have to take, I thought it was interesting how they took it back again to the olden days, like verbal confirmation, like oral, binding agreements or oral agreements. I thought that was fascinating. So Rainwater's like, we're brothers in blood and as well as land. And I thought that was fascinating. So then Mo breaks out into an indigenous song as confirmation of the sale, which I thought was really powerful, actually. I was like, damn, again, why couldn't we utilize Mo for more than just being Rainwater's like sidekick or like handler, you know what I mean? I was just like, I wanted more from him. Like, I would be curious to see what Mo's story is. I think they did elaborate on him a little bit in the beginning of the season, if I'm not mistaken, and then it just kind of went to the wayside. But anyway, so next scene we see Lloyd and Rip. They're finalizing digging John's grave. And again, the symbolism was really beautiful here. They see an eagle, or I'm sorry, I thought it was an eagle, but I believe it might have been a falcon that's circling overhead, and they take it as a sign that kind of like John is with them or he's looking over them or that everything's going to be okay, basically. So Rip tells him about the ranch that Beth bought, and he's like, we have room for one, like, beat down cowboy or dilapidated cowboy. And he's like, if I can't cowboy at the Yellowstone, I don't want to cowboy anywhere. And I thought that was very profound. And it showed how loyal to the soil that he really was. But he doesn't know anything else, so I kind of really can't blame him. Shout out to people that stay at jobs for 40, 50, 60 years, because baby, I can't do it. I admire people that can, but at the same time, I'm like, did they give something up? Are they living their dream? But I understand trying to provide, trying to be financially secure and stable and, collecting like benefits and like pensions and things like that. I am not that type of person. I think if I was to do that, it would just be with writing or something creative based. I don't think I could do it in like a regular 9 to 5. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but for me, that doesn't work because I'm a type of person, I'm like, I like to move around. I'm very much a millennial girly who's like, at the first sign of me being pissed off, I'm out of here. Sometimes I will try and stick it out, but anyway, just a little fun fact about me. But so then next we see raggedy ass Jamie, who should have been taken to this train station about 2 or 3 episodes ago. Honestly, he should have been killed the first episode. That's just me. But actually, my mother-in-law said something. She was like, the actor who plays him makes you hate him so bad. I was like, that means he's doing his job. I've seen this gentleman in plenty of other things, and he is a very phenomenal actor. So he's seen in the mirror practicing a speech about his dad's murder as well as Sarah's, which is what his child's mother told him in the previous episode. He's just like going through it to make it sound more authentic, more natural. So then it's kind of interesting how they shot this. They like show the rest of the family, like Casey, Monica, Tate, Beth, and everybody getting dressed up in like their Sunday's finest, getting ready for the funeral. And then he's also dressing up, getting ready for his to talk about death. They're kind of both touching on death because it has something to do with John's death. But then I think almost Jamie is like committing like almost like career suicide or something. I know it appeared in his favor after it happened, but still, I was thinking about that. I thought the juxtaposition was very interesting. I almost thought that Jamie was going to show up to the funeral, but I don't even think he knew about it because he's basically excommunicated or banished from the family. So I thought that was actually a really good creative choice, how they kind of ping pong back and forth. And it's interesting how he's saying how great of a man his dad is, but he's not even, he laid the dominoes for his dad to get killed. Like, he really didn't care about him that much. Like, he was willing to steal that ranch and get that money from underneath of him at any cost. And I think that was so shitty. Like, again, he should have been dead a couple episodes ago, but that's just me. So the Cowboys are also getting ready. They're getting dressed up and cleaned up in their quarters. Jamie is in the shower practicing the speech again like a fucking maniac. He's harping more and more on the part about his dad. So then Beth is also getting ready at the ranch house, the main house, and she's putting on she finds her mom's earrings and she puts them on and she stops to look at herself in the mirror and she kind of just pauses and takes herself in. Like, it's almost like she can't believe that she's in this situation, and you can tell she's still carrying that hurt, that loss. So then Rip, she goes downstairs. Rip and Carter are down there, and Rip is like, it's tradition to walk down the hill in honor of the person that's deceased. And she's like, bitch, not in these hills. And I said, baby, I don't blame you. I remember when I graduated from high school, we had to walk down this steep ass hill, and I had the nerve. My 17-year-old self had the nerve to wear wedge heels. I was like, bitch, what were you thinking? And they were thick, like thick platform wedge heels. I said, absolutely not. I'm dressing for comfort from now on. Like, I'm already thinking about my graduation in May from Nova, and I'm like, bruh, I'm probably gonna be wearing flats or sandals. Like, I'm not even gonna try to be cute. I wanna be comfortable, and I don't wanna bust my ass, especially not in front of hundreds of people. So anyway, Carter is like, Beth like goes out of the room, and Carter's like, she seems pretty mad. And again, Rip with the one-liner, I was like, damn. Rip is like, some people deal with death differently, and he's like, she has a right to be mad. And they open the door. I'm fucking screaming. They open the door and see that Beth is driving off in her car. I said, bitch, I know you're lying. And she'd be driving like a bat out of hell. Like, she to the side and the fucking dust in the background. I was like, okay, speed racer. So then Beth gets to like where everybody else is at, preparing and waiting for the funeral. They're basically waiting for her. So Rainwater greets Beth. She rolls down her window and he comes over, or I think he gets out the car or something, and they talk. And he's like, I was there when you called, so I decided to come to pay my respects. And she says something profound as well. She's like, you're his protector now. Why would I mind? And I was like, okay, that's fair enough. Again, she's so soft this season. She's more understanding. She's not as much of a hothead as she used to be. The only person I feel like that makes her a hothead is fucking Jamie, because she be wanting to fuck this man up. I'd just be like, he deserved it though. I don't feel bad for him. So Beth is like, where's my dad? And this scene was actually, even though it was a very heavy scene, I thought the way it was shot, again, was very beautiful. Some of the filmography or the cinematography was very good, or just the shooting. So her dad's coffin is in the stable, which was very, very fitting. It's like in the walkway or something. It's not in an actual stable, but it's like in the barn or whatever. So she walks towards it. She starts to walk, and then she has to collect herself because she starts to break down. She turns around and she's like, all right, I got this. I can keep going. And I was like, she portrayed grief so well, and just like the shock. Like, I think seeing the coffin is it seals the deal, because it feels so surreal until you see the body, or until you see something symbolizing like, hey, yeah, they're not here anymore. This is not totally related, but I had a friend, we're not really close anymore, and I haven't talked to him in a long time, but he was a really cool guy, and we were close for a very long time. But I remember he lost his mom, and he had always wanted me to meet her. And then I remember the first time I met her, she was in a coffin, and it was a shock to me. Like, in my mind, she wasn't dead. I don't know how to explain it. Like, and he always used to say, oh, I want you to meet her. Oh, yeah, I want you to meet her. And she knew about me and I knew about her, but I never got the chance. And then the first time I see her, like, she's gone. And it was such a shock to my system. I don't know how else to say it. Like, and I was like, man, she didn't deserve this. And like, they didn't deserve this, because him and his sister lost her very, very young. Like, I think his sister was like going to graduation, like her high school graduation, and their mom passed like on their way to the graduation. And he still had to hold it down and like keep his sister moving along. And I was like, I don't know how you did it. Like, they both graduated from college, like had to sell their house. Like, it was pretty rough. Like, I felt so bad for him because he was so lost without her. And I think that loss, again, it just fundamentally changed him. And I really didn't blame him. Like, you lost your everything. Like, what do you do? So Beth, I think, is definitely in the same boat. So I said in my notes that the score here was very beautiful and delicate. I think scores, again, are very important. Sometimes something doesn't need words, but like a music like note or a sound, or just like an instrumental, like that can make or break a scene, I feel like, or even an entire body of work, whether it's a TV show or episode or a film or something like that. I said it tugged on the heartstrings for sure, because it definitely like stirred something up in me, just the way it was played. So then she tells the coffin, I promised not to sell an inch, and, I kept my promise, like, of the land. And she's like, there's not cows on it, but, there's not condos on it either. And I was like, that was a very beautiful line that they put in there. And so then she leans in and she whispers to his coffin, we won. And then she kind of just lays on it and hugs it. And she's like, it breaks my heart that I had to lose you to do it. And she's like, I'm going to let you rest now, but you know, now you get to be with mom. Now you guys are reunited. And I said that this was very touching because it was such a deep scene and she played it very well. Again, don't know why she's not getting awards, but she should be. So then, sorry, I got a notification on my phone. I got distracted for a sec. So Rip is waiting for her as she's, you know, saying her final goodbyes. And she's like, you know, I'm ready. And then they start the official ceremony. So the cowboys pick up his coffin and they take it to the hole that they dug earlier. The other cowboys walk through the stable and Carter stops for her. She's sitting down on the bench as they're doing this, and he picks up her hand and they just walk out together. And I was like, oh my gosh, can we lean more into this? Because I want to see more of Carter, her, and Rip like become more of a family, because it kind of feels like Ryan is a third wheel, not Ryan, excuse me, Carter is a third wheel or like an outsider. And I was like, I want him to be more integrated into things. I don't want him to just be treated like the help. Like he is every part of this family as the rest of them are. So anyway, I said the next shot was gorgeous. It kind of like shows sunlight peeking through the foliage. There's like a stillness there that, you know, that quietness, like when you lose something, like it was, you know, just like that white noise or like that, like it, I don't know how to explain it. And I feel like the light poking through the foliage was kind of gorgeous, like that, like there will be better days, there will be light coming, like, or light at the end of the tunnel. I thought that was very beautiful. So Carter is like, you know, are you okay? And then he's like, do you want to watch it from farther away, like back here? Because she's kind of tucked away. Everybody else is closer to the grave. And she's like, I don't want to watch it at all. And I was like, oh, my heart goes out to Beth. So then the falcon returns again, and it's like it's beautiful how they shot it. It was like a little bit of a breeze going through the trees, and then the falcon returns and he perches on a high branch in the tree. And Beth, like Lloyd and Rip, she takes it as a good sign, or feels like she feels her dad's presence there because he was very strong and he led the family. So then the priest asked Beth if she wants to lay a rose upon the coffin and say goodbye. And she's like, no, I'm going to say something else. Because, you know, Beth marches to the beat of her own drum. She don't give a fuck what you got to say or what you think she should be doing. She's going to do what she wants to do. And I love that for her. So she lays the rose on his coffin and she's like, you know, she leans into it and she's like, I'm going to avenge you. And I'm like, Jamie. I'm like, you're screwed, bro. And I was like, you deserve it. Everything you got coming, you deserve it. So then different people come up to the coffin. Linnell comes up to his coffin and she's like, I wore the tightest skirt I could find. And she's like, you know, you're going to be missed. And I thought that was very touching and a very nice way to give their relationship closure as well. So then we see Rainwater leave a totem on his coffin. I don't know if it was like a tapestry. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it was very beautiful. It had like a very like tribal pattern on it. And the colors were pretty as well. And he's like, you know, I'm going to protect this land for you and for our kin, basically. So then one by one, the cowboys go up and they place roses on his coffin. And then Rip asks the priest, how does it work? You know, like lowering John into the ground, because everyone has left at this point. I think they've like gone back to the house or gone back up to the barn or what have you. And so he's asking the priest how to do this. And the priest is like, oh, we have people for that. You know, he explains it and then Rip just starts doing it. And he's like, you know, we have people for that. And Rip's like, no, this one's on me. And I was like thinking to myself, or I think I said it, I was like, I'm surprised Rip isn't more broken up about this, but I'm like, he has to be strong for his wife and all the other cowboys, because if he breaks or falls, then everybody else will. And I was like, that must be tough too, because I know how important John was to him. He gave him a chance, just like Rip gave Carter a chance. It's like history repeating itself almost, but he also really looked up to him. He was his father figure. John was a father figure for Rip, and I feel like also Rip was his handler. He done seen and heard everything, and he still stood by this man's side. Like, you know, kind of not in the same way, this is probably a bad analogy, but you know how like a dog is loyal and they never leave their master's side? That's kind of how Rip reminded me of. Like, he's loyal to the soil. So, what was I going to say? The priest is like, you know, do you want me to stay? And Rip is like, we're all prayed out. He's like, if he ain't getting into heaven now, like he ain't gonna get in there later. And I was like, that's funny, but it's true. So then next we see Gator getting ready to feed the cowboys. My mother-in-law actually told me a really good fun fact. She was like, the guy that plays Gator actually works on the real ranch in real life. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I think he is the chef there. So I was like, how cool is it that he gets to be on the show just by like proxy? So then Beth drives back to her house and changes clothes. She just changes into like jeans and a t-shirt. And she goes to get a gun to go light Jamie's ass up like a Christmas tree. I said, I'm dead. So then Rip finishes burying John and he's like, I don't even know what to say. Then he's like, you know, I'm just going to start with thank you. He's like, I'm going to take care of your daughter and, you know, you have my word forever. And he's like, I'm going to try to love her the same way that she loved you. And I was like, oh, that's so powerful to me, because Beth really loved her dad. Like, nobody could come between them two. So then Rip tells John he'll see him around, and he finishes up and he walks off. And I was like, oh my God, that scene was so hard, but it was beautifully played, I think, by Cole Hauser. So shout out to him. So then Rip sees Beth again driving off like a bat out of hell, and he calls her, but of course her crazy ass don't pick up. So then raggedy ass Jamie, I'm sorry, I know his name is just Jamie, but I like adding that for emphasis. One of my friends always says raggedy ass. Her name is Sarah. She be cracking me up, but I kind of got that from her. Everything is raggedy ass in my world, even though it's not. So Jamie is giving his speech in front of everybody, like the little conference, and he denies his involvement with Sarah, and he talks about how great John is and his vision for Montana and how much he meant to the people, like, just gassing him up basically. So then we see Ryan pack up his belongings, and he says goodbye to everybody, and Rip is standing outside and jumps in his truck with Lloyd because he's like, oh shit, I know where my wife is headed, and where she's headed is not a good destination. So Rip calls Beth, and she picks up, and she's like, hey sweetheart, like acting like everything's kumbaya, and it's like, bitch, no it's not, like you're about to go to jail for murder. So she's like, choke on smoke because you're an hour behind me. I know you're not finna catch up. That's why I left when I left. So he's like, pull the fuck over. Like, he yells at her, and Rip never yells at her for her. So for him to do that, that means he really cared, and he didn't want her to get in a situation that she couldn't get out of. But knowing him, he'll follow her to the depths of the earth, or hell or high water. So he's like, I'm gonna call Casey, and she's like, leave my brother out of it. She's like, this one's on me, like, don't worry about it. So then Beth breaks into Jamie's house. Give me 1 second, I need to drink something. I've been talking for like 30 minutes. I was like, damn, my jaw kind of hurt, bitch. Ooh. So I have my lemon polar water today. We don't have like any of our other flavors, I think. So I kind of have like the bitter flavors, but I'm like, it's still refreshing. So Beth breaks into Jamie's house. She beats him up with a tire iron and pepper sprays this man. And he's just fucking struggling. I was like, I don't know what noise I just made just now. So he knocks her out and rinses his eyes with like milk and water or some shit. And then she gets back up, and they just keep beating each other's ass. Like, he was tearing her up like she was a dude off the street. But I'm like, if you gonna come to my house with a tire iron and pepper spray and start swinging on me like with closed fists, and I guess you can get what you get. But I think that was a long time coming. Like, it was been building up, and Jamie just had enough. Like, because I guess he's like, I'm tired of like feeling guilty for what I did, because like I told you I'm sorry. Actually, did he say sorry for the shit that he did to her? I don't know. Jamie's a fucking spineless prick. So Jamie's like, I'll call the cops on you, and then you'll get in trouble for attempted murder. And then he's like, I'll pin Dad's and Sarah's murders on you. And he's like, anything else that anybody in the family has done that's been foul or evil, like, I'll pin that shit on you too. And I said, damn, he ruthless. I was like, oh, now you have a pair. Like, now you have some cojones. So, excuse me. So then she's on the floor. I mean, she's toe up. She got blood. Like, everything's red and purple. Like, I'm like, how you talking shit after you got your ass beat? She's like, we sold the ranch, and this just makes this man go fucking ballistic or nuclear. So I said, Beth is the only person I know who would laugh after getting her ass, because she starts laughing at his reaction. And I'm like, to her, that's probably like sweet music to her ears, because he thought he was going to get a one up on them and get a piece of that pie, but now he's not going to, for selling the land and commercializing it. So Jamie starts laying on her, and then all of a sudden Rip comes in and tears his ass up. And I was like, I thought he was an hour behind, because I was like, she wasn't in his house for no hour. I was like, again, the storytelling was a little floppy here. I was like, no. And also, I'm about to get into it, so maybe let me not ruin it. So she tells Rip, Rip tears his ass up, like throws him into the wall, fucking starts laying on him. And I was like, you touch his wife, like, you're gonna die. Rip's gonna rip your head off, literally. His name is Rip for a reason. So she's like, Rip, wait. Let me have the last lick. So she gets a fucking butcher's knife or whatever and just right into Jamie. And I was like, damn. And she's like, I'm going to call 911. And then she's like, I have it all figured out. Like, don't worry about it. And he's like, okay. So she goes to sit on the couch and light up a cigarette. If two things is true about Beth, she gonna light her cigarette and she gonna have a glass of something. Scotch, whiskey, bourbon, something in that family. Like, she's gonna have it. I didn't like the choreography of this scene. I wish the kill with Jamie had been much sweeter. I think it would, actually my mother-in-law made this prediction. She was like, we were talking about it as it was leading up to this scene. She was like, I think that government, the guy that was like the head of the government covert organization that helped put the hit on John, she was like, I think that guy's gonna come in and kill him. Or we even suspected him, because he's a liability for saying that him and Sarah had nothing to do with each other, and like he caused all these issues to happen. Like, they need to get rid of him to clean up their loose ends, basically, or tie up their loose ends. So we thought that was going to happen, but it just felt very cheap, and it felt like they took the easy way out again. Like, I said felt. I was trying to say felt very, like I was trying to say felt very blah, 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 but I can't fucking talk tonight. But I I don't know. I think I wanted more. I think I wanted like a worse kill, or one of them to take him to the train station, like he actually like get thrown off the cliff like the rest of the people, or I guess a lot of them are already dead when they do that. But I don't know, I wanted him to suffer more. I feel like that was such an easy suffer. I don't know if that makes sense. And it was just like, okay, so Rip is holding him and then she just stabs him like a fucking piñata, like, or like a voodoo doll. I was like, I didn't like it. I'm sorry. I don't know what other way. Like, I think he deserved to be like shot in the head. I know that sounds very violent. I'm not a violent person, but I just wanted him to feel it, or like something different. I don't know. I wanted, you know what would have been interesting, actually, now that I just think about it or thought about it? The same way that he had John set up and killed, that would have been great if he had been killed the same way. I think that would have been better. And they made it seem like Casey or somebody else was watching him and was going to kill him. Remember before Beth went in the house, it was kind of set up the same way as when Casey went in that government guy's car with his daughter and threatened to shoot her and was like, stay the fuck away from my family. I think it would have been tight if Casey and Beth maybe both ambushed him and got their lick in before he died. But I think Casey didn't want no parts of that life anymore, because yeah, he didn't even kill that guy's daughter like he said he was, and he didn't even shoot the guy. He really wanted to give up that lifestyle. He was tired of killing. He was tired of being a soldier. Yeah, that makes sense now. I'm sorry. I just really thought about this. That wasn't even in my notes. I kind of just randomly thought about that. So anyway, we still have a little bit farther to go. I apologize for talking so much. So Casey and Rainwater finalize their deal. Casey signs a contract and Rainwater gives him a check for like 1.125 mil. I was like, that's a cool meal to me. And he's like, you just made the worst deal since my people sold Manhattan. And I was fucking weak. But he was like, you know, Manhattan is like in ruin right now. He was like, at least you get to keep the land as is. And I was like, facts. So then Casey runs out the house and he starts hyperventilating, and then Monica follows him to check on him, and Casey starts breaking down and crying, and he's like, you know, I'm free. And she's like, you've always been free, babe. Like, you just had to realize it. And she's like, you know, this is closure. Like, this is a new beginning for us. And Casey throws his like livestock commissioner bag like into the field in front of them. And to me, I said that symbolized his freedom from the ranch and his dad commanding his life and everything, you know, Yellowstone taking over his life. He had no autonomy. He couldn't decide for himself. Everything was decided for him. All these ducks were put in a row, and he didn't really want to do it, but he had no other choice. Like, his dad told him to. He had to do, you know, follow, you know, the plan according to the family, because you know, his dad put all three of them, you know, his siblings, in positions of power to benefit the whole family, but also himself. So then they see a wolf in the field, and it's kind of like scratching in the earth and like building a den, and Mo comes out as well. And he's like, the wolf must like it here too, you know, enough to build a home. And I thought that was very symbolic of like Casey planting his roots and settling for once in his life, because he's always on the move. He's always on the go, always on the next kill, the next mission. And finally he gets to sit still. And I think that's why it got to him like that. So that was actually a really cool scene. So then Mo is like, you know, the wolf isn't real. He's like, you know, it's not just Casey's vision anymore. It's our vision. And I was like, oh, that's very powerful. I actually really like that part. So then it pans to Jamie's house, and Beth is there, but Jamie isn't. So she's lying there. And then, oh, I'm sorry. She was lying. So the authorities are there. They're like scoping out the scene or whatever. She lies and she's like, you know, I came over to confront him about not attending our father's funeral. And she's like, you know, you guys should look for wire transfers to offshore accounts and other little details. I can't remember what the other thing was. I couldn't remember what they said, so I just didn't write it down. And she's like, you know, that's how you'll find the people who actually killed my dad, because it wasn't a suicide. Like, it was planned, it was premeditated. So she's like, you know, Sarah's the bitch who paid for, you know, this plan that went to shit, basically. And then Beth is like, you know, I'm evidence of what my brother is willing to do to cover his ass, cover his tracks, basically. And I was like, and then she was like giving them more game, like as she's being hauled off into an ambulance. And I was like, why do they just believe her? Like, why didn't they do their own investigation? It kind of was lazy storytelling to me. And I'm like, well, you can't just go off of what she said just because her ass is beat up. But I'm like, I don't know. I just didn't like the way. I think it also had the investigator. Let me sit up for a second. I think it had the investigator that originally came to Jamie's house when Sarah died, and they were like, let's look through your things. And then he started freaking out and was like, you can't come in my house without a warrant. And then this bitch ran up the stairs like a little weasel that he was and started shredding documents. I think it was the same guy. And he was just like, we know your brother was lying, but we don't know in what capacity. And she's like, well, boom, 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 here you go. It was like she did all the groundwork for him. I felt like that was such a shortcut. Again, I didn't like that. There was so much drama and tension and buildup. They had some really good subplots that I just feel like were not fleshed out that well. Actually, my husband suggested this. He was like, they should have had like 2 or 3 more episodes. And I was like, I totally agree. Just to have more time to explain everything, because they crammed so much in such a short period of time. I was really fucking bummed that this was only like a month and a half long journey, because I feel like with the season finale, it's usually what, like 2 months, maybe 3, depending on how many episodes. And I know it was the back half of another, the beginning of the season, but I don't like when they rush like endings. I already have a hard time liking them. Like, I feel like it struggled in the same way as Arcane. They packed too much into too little, like in the episode. I was just like, I don't like that. Like, they needed more time. They needed more episodes. So anyway, Rip and Lloyd get rid of Jamie's body. They take him, they throw the body over where the train station was, where the other corpses are. And Lloyd is like, what do we do with his car? Because I think Lloyd is driving his car and Rip's driving his truck. And he's like, just stay close to me. So then they pull over in the middle of nowhere and they set his car on fire. And I was like, nobody saw the smoke. Again, I don't know, just little literal things that I was noticing. I was like, okay, well, they're in the middle of nowhere. This is their land. So whatever, I guess. So then we see Beth is in the hospital and the nurse tries to give her some oxycodone and she's like, I'm not going to take that shit. And I'm dying because she tells Carter to get her purse for her, and it has a mini bottle of Tito's vodka in it. And I was like, baby, that's Beth's painkillers. Like, she don't want no pills. She want booze. Like, that's her go-to for everything. So then Teeter is seen at the 4-6's ranch in Texas, and she's greeted by Travis and Jimmy. And Travis tells her to go, he basically barks a command at her. He's like, go get this horse named Mankiller, work on like tying it to the post or whatever it was, like getting the horse settled and stuff like that. But I was like, that sounds like a trap, because if the horse's name is Mankiller, that sounds like the horse gonna kill me, bitch. And Jimmy's just like dying, like chuckling to himself, because he's finally glad that Travis isn't busting his balls anymore. I think it was like insinuating that Teeter is becoming the new Jimmy, but she'll work her way up through the ranks. So I'm excited to see that. Again, I think she could have her own show. Like, maybe you could bring back some of the other characters, but she's a strong enough actor and character that I think if with some good writing and directing, like, you could really go places with that. So then we see Ryan, who was Colby's best friend, at a concert for a girl he used to date, played by Lainey Wilson. So my mother-in-law had to refresh my memory on this, because I was like, I don't remember her being in the show. My mother-in-law loves Lainey Wilson. She loves country music. I really don't. It's not my cup of tea, but I'm like, you like it, I love it, sis. But she was like, you remember they dated? And I was like, bitch, no. That's the thing. There's so many storylines. There's so much going on, so much action and characters and little subplots and B-plots and all that stuff that it's hard to remember everything. So she was not something memorable. And so he kind of starts making his way up to the front of the show. It's a nice little venue. She's rocking out. She's doing her thing. She can sing. I'll give her that. It's not my cup of tea, but she's very talented. I can admit that. So I wrote a note in here that said, I find it kind of annoying when musicians are allowed to sing on TV as another version of themselves because we already know they can sing. To me, that's just validating the talent. It's like, we already know this. I want to see what else they can do. And maybe that's mean, because there are some people that don't know who she is. And maybe by seeing her on that show, they might take interest in her and want to support her. So I kind of get that as well. But me personally, I don't like it. Like, remember when Ariana Grande was in Don't Look Up and she did like a whole like 17-minute concert? I was like, that didn't add to the movie. Like, it's just another way to show, oh yeah, okay, this person's talented. They have a great voice. Okay, next. I want to see, okay, and thank you, next. Like, I want to see more. Like, can she act? Like, I don't know. Give me 1 second. So I said that in my notes. I said, let's see them act or do something outside of their wheelhouse. And then you give them these like very flat lines or very flat scenes, and it's just like, this could have done without. So she goes up to him after she's done singing, and she's like, Ryan, she's like, it's good seeing you. And he's like, I made a mistake, because I guess they were getting hot and heavy, and then he kind of broke it off with her to commit to the ranch full time. And he's like, I made a mistake. And she's like, well, what about your Super Bowl, which was the ranch? And he's like, we lost it. And he's like, I made a mistake. You're my Super Bowl. And I thought that was really, a sweet line. So then she tips up his hat and she leans in to kiss him. And she's like, come on the road with me. He's like, are there any jobs? And she's like, I'll do you one better. Like, come join me on my tour bus and just rock out with me everywhere across the country. And I was like, that sounds like a dope plan to me. But I thought it was very sweet that some of them got to go do the things that they really wanted to do, because they were very tethered to the ranch. But again, it showed how loyal that they really were. So Next, we see Rip walking through the ranch, and he's looking off into the mountains. Like, he does a final walkthrough of like the stable, making sure everything's good, everything's cleared out. And then, oh, this scene touched my heart. He closes the door to the stable, and it's just like that final nail in the coffin, no pun intended. The final nail in the coffin, no pun intended, excuse me. So Beth is in the house, the main house, and she's doing one last like sweep and walk through, just kind of like how Rip did in the stable. It's completely empty, everything's moved out. So her and Casey meet at the top of the stairs, and they look over the living room where they had so many memories. I mean, they literally grew up there. They don't know anything else. So this is very new for both of them. Even Rip too. Some of them have just been there so long, like their whole lives basically. So she's like, you know, do you want anything personal from Dad's office? And he's like, you know, I spent my whole life trying to get away from this place. And she's like, okay, well, I'll lock it up in storage just in case you want it. She's like, if you don't want it, maybe your son might want it. You know, he might want to know his granddad's story because it is a story worth remembering. And I thought that was very powerful that she didn't just throw it away just because he told her he didn't want it. It's like, again, yeah, just because you didn't want it and you didn't like it and you struggled to fit into the mold that your dad tried to force you into doesn't mean your son might not want something to remember him or memorialize him or keep his memory alive anyway. So some of the cowboys are taking down the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch sign at the front of the ranch, and I was like, whoo, it's getting real. I was really, you know what, I was really surprised that they didn't fight for the ranch more, but I know that it was a huge financial undertaking and they felt like it was something that they couldn't win, and they had already sold pretty much all their assets, so what else were they gonna do? I wanted to see them fight harder, but I guess I understand, you know, I guess losing their dad, they're kind of like, he was the main reason why we fought so hard, and he's gone, so there's really no reason for us to. And I think they all did want their own lives. They wanted to be able to live fully and richly, so I don't know. So Casey's pulling up in his truck, and Rip is like, do you want it? He's like, no, because I want to start my own brand, my own thing. And I was like, I'm proud of Casey for doing that. So then we see Tate and Casey, they're at an auction, they're looking to buy cattle, and Tate is like, you know, what specific things are you looking for? I didn't write that down because, again, he said it so fast I didn't have time to write it. So Casey starts to bid, and, you know, with some of the other guys in the crowd, and he wins the one that he wanted, the cattle. So this scene was very interesting to me. The next one, the indigenous are at the main house with Mo and Rainwater and other indigenous people, and they're tearing everything down. Maybe not tearing everything down, but they're taking out everything out of the Dutton main house and, you know, taking down any signage or anything that has their energy and kind of making it their own. And I said they're basically cleansing the land and making it their people's again, like giving like rightful ownership back to the correct party. I actually thought that was very cool. And I said that was very powerful to see the native get what was rightfully theirs returned to them. And they're even taking the Y symbol, the infamous Y symbol, off the ranch. So some of the kids are knocking over graves in the Dutton graveyard, and Mo scolds them, and he begins to pick them back up and dust them off and make them look, you know, back up to par. So then a voiceover starts. It's a character from one of the prequels or spinoffs, I believe is what my mother-in-law said, but I haven't watched any of those. I want to say it's 1883 and 1923. She's been suggesting to us to watch it. I'm not super into historical pieces. We watched a little bit of 1923 with her yesterday, and it was good, but I was like, I don't know if I really want to watch this in my spare time. I was like, I think I'm kind of over it. Unless I did read that there might be a spinoff with Beth and Rip. I was like, but what are they really gonna do? Like, she's so different now. Like, she's not the same woman that she was when the series started, and neither is he in terms of his character. They've both grown significantly. So I was like, I don't know what storyline we could get with them, but I was like, I'd be willing to give it a couple episodes, like, to watch and see if I like it. But I was like, I'm not super thrilled about it because I think the collective works better as well, but I don't know. Or the collective works better, excuse me. Ooh, I just let out a burp, I'm sorry. So a voiceover starts and talks about their father not being able to keep the land, but also how wild land is not able to be owned, it's supposed to be free. And then next we see Casey, Monica, and Tate. They're on horses, they're herding cattle, and they're talking about how they're basically living their dream, how they always wanted this, how badly they wanted this. And I said it's fascinating to see Casey start his own ranch and build something from scratch that Tate could have. But I'm like, I thought he didn't want a ranch. I thought he didn't want that. But I'm like, maybe he didn't want it under his dad's like domain. I mean, Casey, I thought he would have just done something else. But, you know, I guess ranching is in his blood. Like, he doesn't know anything else. So then we see Beth at their new house that she had bought earlier in the episode. Rip is out in the, I don't know what the hell to call it, the corral or whatever, or the field with Carter. They're like herding cattle and stuff like that. And I said, it seems like they have their own slice of heaven. I said, you know, Beth is just kind of like admiring her family and seeing how happy Rip is. So she's like, you know, cowboys are the only people who get excited about grass, because Rip starts rattling off about it. And she's like, you seem happy. And he's like, I am. And she's like, I'm getting there. She's like, you know, I went into a bar in town, and she's like, they make a mean steak, but they don't let tourists stay. She's like, they only let them pass through, you know, whereas in the Yellowstone or that area, it was becoming touristy and it was losing its essence of the locals. And, you know, she's like, you know, there's a hitching post, and then they agreed to take a ride together, and it kind of ends off there. I think for me, it lacked so much action. Sorry, I'm putting my tablet down. It lacked action. I would rate it a 7.5. It felt very easy. It felt almost too calm and too, I don't want to say perfect. I just feel like the show has so much tension in it that it was missing the essence of Yellowstone and like that signature mark. I was like, that would have been interesting if they left off with a cliffhanger or something. A lot of the predictions I had didn't come true. It was just such a soft ending. I think I was very surprised by that. I thought it would be such a hard ending, especially with everything that they endured this season. I don't know. I understood that they were trying to wrap up loose ends and show you where everyone ended up. And maybe they are setting up stories for other characters, like spinoffs. But it didn't sell me on it. It was very lackluster. I don't know. I don't know what tension. I mean, I guess because if you introduce a new plot or something like that, then you have to explain it more. You need more episodes or spinoffs and things like that. But I don't know, it was just missing its heart. Again, Kevin Costner was severely needed this season. Kelly Riley carried this season on her back. I don't know, my mother-in-law was like, you know, I thought that government guy was going to come take Casey's family out. Because they kept kind of like hinting like, oh, his family is not going to be with us. At least they gave the vibe of that. There were certain scenes that were like implicating that Casey might lose it all, or he might lose the people closest to him. And I was just like, okay. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I just didn't like it. I don't know why. It was just missing something for me. I was like, it needed more. I think more story needed to be developed. I think some loose ends did not get wrapped up. I don't know. I wanted to see them fight more. I was like, okay, you lost your dad, that's your everything, but this land, this ranch, this legacy, like that was also your everything. But I think it meant more to John than it did the kids. It was very interesting to see them walk away from it. But I guess they were tired of fighting. Maybe that's what it was. But I just was like, that's it? Like, I was wanting more. I don't know how to explain it. I was very disappointed by it. It wasn't the ending that I had in mind. I don't know. There were so many ways that they could have played it, and I just don't think that the way that they did was that great. I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm done with Yellowstone. Like, I don't know if I really want to watch spinoffs. My mother-in-law was like, oh, if the Beth and Rip one comes on, you know, soon, we should watch it. But I'm like, I don't know if I really care anymore. That sounds so bad. And again, I love the actress who plays Beth. I think she does an incredible job. I think Rip is such a strong character too. But I was like, I don't know if I really care about the journey enough to keep following it or continuing it. I don't know. I just don't know. It was missing something for me. I don't know what it was specifically, but I was like, okay. I stayed up late for this shit. Like, and it was a long premiere. Wasn't it like 2 hours or something like that? I was like, they could have added more. I don't know. I was like, would their dad have been satisfied with this ending? Like, if he were around to see that, I was like, would they have fought if he was still alive or not? I'm not too sure. Probably, because I would have felt an obligation to him, and everything that he's built and his father's built and his father's father built. But I don't know. I was kind of irritated by the ending. I was just like, this blew me. But I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad that I found a show that I enjoyed for the last several years. Taylor Sheridan has his pulse on the Paramount Network. I don't think anything he makes is a miss. Sometimes his character development can be, or some plots can be kind of like pretentious a little bit, or like I don't want to say they don't make sense. I feel like they don't add value to the story. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just like shock value, or like, how outrageous can I make this? But it's like, make it serve the story. But I can't say shit. I'm not a TV maker. I'm not a filmmaker. or a TV showrunner or a creator, so I don't fucking know. But I don't know. I wanted so much more, and I felt very let down as a fan, but I enjoyed the show. I think they did a great job for what they had, and I think with them missing their lead that they severely suffered, but they still made do in a decent way without him. So I don't know. I guess that concludes my review. I'll be reviewing some other stuff for you guys. I didn't have a chance to, but last week I meant to watch Love and Hip Hop Miami, but I have not had time. I told you I was in the trenches doing schoolwork, but now that that's done, I plan to get that out for you guys within the next few days. I have some really cool videos coming out that I'm really excited about. One, I talk about my first sound bath. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but I believe that'll be coming out on Thursday the 19th, if I'm not mistaken. I have another video talking about generational curses in the Black family / Black community. I think another one, what was the other one about? Oh my God, this is sad because I feel like I just recorded these yesterday. There's a couple of other really cool ones. Oh, I think I talked to in another video about forgiving our parents, and what was the last one? Oh, it was a really good topic too. I'm blown right now. I'm so old. I'm sorry. My mind has just been somewhere else all day, so I'm like trying to come back into like my creative space. But I love you guys. I hope you're having a good day, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you like my review. Bye.